being in the state of Odisha, suddenly the current had gone off. So the system logged off. So I'm back again. And I would like to once again start by welcoming all of you to this session of Health Connect, a conversation with Indian osteopaths. And this time we have the Ayurveda Doctor Special. So for all of us who are joining for the first time, we may be wondering what exactly do we mean by osteopathy? What is it all about? So you're in the right place. In fact, Shisha University introduced osteopathy for the first time in India in 2015 as full-fledged degree courses for undergraduate and postgraduate in osteopathy. Osteopathy, however, is the fastest growing profession in Europe and US and is gaining tremendous acceptance and demand past few years, not only in India, but globally, especially because of its non-invasive form of diagnosis and treatment. So to understand this science of osteopathy and the various aspects of health that it encompasses, we started this series of Health Connect and had conversations with the MBBS doctors, physiotherapists, dentists to understand how this science so beautifully complements with their domain knowledge of medicine and how it enhanced their understanding of health, their patients, and helped them to feel the contentment in healing their patients holistically. But Ayurveda is one of the oldest systems of medicine and traces its roots in the Vedic times. It is also known to have the knowledge of life in its entirety. It is also said that it heals the patients holistically. So what made the Ayurveda doctors choose to study this program and how is it helping them? So let's hear them out. I'm very, very happy to introduce today our dynamic and young osteopaths for this session. We have with us Dr. Rashmi Gupta, who after completing her BAMS traveled extensively as a Nadi consultant before joining MSc Osteopathy in Shisha University in 2017. In fact, the interesting part is that she joined the program when she had a small baby of just 4 years old and was very new to the state of Odisha. I welcome wholeheartedly Dr. Rashmi Gupta for this session. Our next panel member is Dr. Tanushree Agarwal, who after completing her BAMS in Mumbai, is currently studying in her final year of MSc Osteopathy at Shisha University. And till now, she has already given sessions to more than 350 patients. I welcome Dr. Tanushree for this session. So let's start with Dr. Rashmi. Dr. Rashmi, what according to you is osteopathy?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So Gayatri, for me, osteopathy is Ayurveda. So what is Ayurveda? Basically, it's knowledge of life, right? And so is osteopathy. Osteopathy is basically a holistic, complete approach towards health. It's really knowing the system. It's really knowing the body through anatomy, physiology, and complete science, through complete science. And then when we come to the treatment, it's very, very holistic, completely manual treatment. So we can say that at the first level, we work with the anatomy, but at the deeper level, at the higher level, we work with the body intelligence. And that is all about Ayurveda. So for me, osteopathy is not anything separate from Ayurveda. It is actually knowledge of life, knowledge of the system, and beautiful scientific manual treatment. That's what osteopathy is, for my understanding.
Yes, in fact, if you see from a layman's perspective, Ayurveda and osteopathy look so different, but you must be seeing so much of similarity in them. Do you think osteopathy can also have its roots in Ayurveda?
Definitely, I feel so, because when you see conceptually, there are so many similarities. In fact, I will say that as an Ayurveda doctor or Ayurveda students, I couldn't understand many things in Ayurveda, which now I can explore in osteopathy. You know, it's wonderful thing, because many things we see in osteopathy, we studied in Ayurveda already. And when you work with same thing you studied, it really makes you experience those things. Like I will say, how we diagnose in Ayurveda and osteopathy is exactly same. In Ayurveda, how we diagnose is three ways: darshan, sparshan, prashna. Prashna means a conversation with a patient, taking a detailed history that is similar as in Ayurveda. As Ayurveda doctor, I used to take a complete detailed history because we need to know the root cause, and that is the base thing in Ayurveda and osteopathy, which is very, very similar. We don't work with symptoms in both the science. We find out what is the root cause. And there are three ways. First, we ask questions. We take a detailed history. Second thing, darshana means observation. So whether it is Ayurveda or osteopathy, they both ask you to observe a person thoroughly to find out the problem exactly, where the root cause is. And then final comes is sparshan. Sparshan is palpation. So in Ayurveda, we know that Nadi Pariksha is very popular way of diagnosis. And same, it's a palpation only, no? We just touch the pulse, and there is a body intelligence which gives you all the information. And same thing is osteopathy. It is just a manual treatment. So through touch only, we can diagnose the whole system. So as a Ayurveda doctor, I always used to think we are only using this body intelligence to diagnose. How we cannot use it to treat also. The intelligence which can give you information, it must have ability to treat also. And that is what is osteopathy. You know, the same intelligence is giving you not only information, but it is able to treat also. So when it comes to diagnosis, it's exactly same. Then I come the next thing, concepts. In Ayurveda and osteopathy, as I said, we believe in finding the root cause. I tell you a few examples how it helped me to understand Ayurveda, osteopathy. So in Ayurveda, I give you a few examples. One is asthma, which we call tamakshvas. So for tamakshvas, we say it is kapha vatatmaka vetto pitta sthana samudbhava. Means asthma is a disease of lungs, but the root cause is in pitta sthan, which is the gut. And same thing I learned in osteopathy. Like if you want to treat the asthma, first you have to check the gut of a patient. How is his colon? And the treatment is also similar. First you have to treat the colon. Until unless you don't treat the gut, the treatment will be half. So in Ayurveda we say tamaketu virechanam. Clean the colon first. And that is what we say in osteopathy. Second thing, one more example I will give. In Ayurveda for eye treatment, we mention foot health. Your feet should be really healthy. You should massage regularly. And we know we should walk barefoot on green grass in the morning because your feet has a deep relation with eyes. And as Ayurveda doctor, I could never understand how it is. But when I came to osteopathy, I could not only understand it, but I could actually feel it and I could use this concept in my treatment. So in osteopathy, we use this like how eyes are connected with occiput and how occiput is connected through feet with through posterior facial chain. So it's like it was a completely new opening for me. So definitely, I believe osteopathy has its roots in Ayurveda. Maybe in some time it was present in India and then it disappeared somehow. But if we study thoroughly, no, both osteopathy and Ayurveda put together, then it opens up completely new dimension for practice.
Wow, very true. So, Dr. Rashmi, how has your definition of health changed after you studied osteopathy?
So I will not say changed actually, because in Ayurveda also we have a larger aspect, like bigger vision of health, and same was in osteopathy also. They both believe in complete physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, not just not having any disease. So it was just experiencing it practically, you know. In Ayurveda, we work a lot with medicines. We know about health and we know about maintaining a holistic health. But in osteopathy, it completely changes from medicine to medicine free treatment. So I will not say that it changed, but it opened up my mind.
Wow, this is really nice. So, Dr. Rashmi, I'll come back again to you. Now, coming to Dr. Tanushree. So, Dr. Tanushree, after doing your BMS, what made you choose osteopathy and not go ahead for doing MD? Dr. Tanushree, you may unmute. Yes.
Yeah. So, like any other Ayurveda student, I also was preparing for my MD exam. And, I wanted to do something more after my bachelor's, definitely, but I was looking for a few more options, like MD was, I wanted to do MD, but I wasn't quite sure if that was something which, I would like to do. So I was just exploring few options and I came across osteopathy. So I just decided to attend one of the intro talks, which was given by one of our seniors, Dr. Gayatri. And in that intro talk, she was mentioning about, she gave a lot of examples on, she gave explained different cases on how she treated a case of endometriosis, which the only option left was surgery. But through osteopathy, she treated that case. And after that, the doctor itself was surprised that, now the surgery is not required. And then there was another case which she shared about how she treated a lot of migraine patients and a lot of different interesting cases. So, listening to those cases, and also like during that time when I attended the session, me being a Pitta Prakriti person, I was going through a lot of acidity issues. And, during summer, usually I tend to develop a lot of acidity, and that usually I prescribe myself some medicines, change my diet, and it helps me. But in that week, it was almost more than 2 weeks or 15 days, I must say, that my acidity was not getting better by anything that I did. I used to take medicines, it used to get better. Then again, after a few days, again it developed. So that went on for a very long time. And listening to Dr. Gayatri talk about all her cases, I just asked her that, and she was explaining how the osteopathy treats from the root. And I was already very familiar with the concept of treating from the root, because in Ayurveda we do that. So I just asked her that, could you examine me and see what the root cause of my acidity is, because I was not able to treat it with Ayurveda also. Like, it was something which was, I don't know what was happening. So I asked her to examine me. So initially, she made me do few exercises she made me do three exercises, and then she made me lie down on the treatment table. And she worked around, I think 15 or 20 minutes maximum she worked with me. And, when I got up from the treatment table, it was I felt so different. I felt so amazing that acidity which I was having for almost more than 15 days, my eyes were all burning, my stomach was burning, my entire body, it had that sensation which was not getting better. And after that 15 minutes of treatment, I felt so different. I felt so, my eyes had cooled down, my entire abdomen, my stomach had started, that something was cooling from inside. And that was something which I had not experienced for more than 2-3 weeks. I was wanting that, and she just did that in the matter of 15 minutes. And that suddenly intrigued my, attention. That what did you do? I asked her, please explain me a little bit of what you did. So then she explained, how she worked. And the most interesting part about it was she did not even touch my stomach. And I was so shocked, like my eyes were burning, my stomach was burning, and she did not touch any of that. She just worked with my neck. And I asked her that, what did you exactly do? So she explained me very briefly that there is a very important nerve known as the vagus nerve, which runs through our body. And when that nerve is not functioning properly, then we, seem to develop all these symptoms of acidity and all these different issues. And she just worked with my neck muscles, and she said that for me, that vagus nerve was actually affected. And once she cleared the path of the vagus nerve, and once she treated, worked with my muscles of the neck, automatically that acidity subsided. And that, suddenly intrigued my interest so much that I decided that, yeah, this is something which, I would like to learn and I would like to explore more. So yeah, that was my experience.
This is, for me as a layman, it is sounding so magical. Dr. Tanu, we have been knowing osteo, the name of the word osteo is more or less related to bones or to joints. But the way you are explaining now, I can sense that a lot of osteopaths also work with glands and with organs. So do you find any similarity, or can you throw some light on this?
Yeah, definitely. So, usually when we hear the name osteopathy, the first thought, even for me, when I heard what osteopathy is, my first thought was, no, I don't want to learn this thing, because definitely it has something to do with bones, and I didn't want to explore it more. But once I got to know what it is and what it does, I started, my interest started developing. So, when I started learning osteopathy, we have three aspects in osteopathy in which we approach a patient. So one is the musculoskeletal aspect, one is the visceral aspect, and one is the craniosacral aspect. So here, which you are asking, the question which you asked, I would throw some light on the visceral aspect of osteopathy. So, with the visceral osteopathy, it has been discovered by John Pierre Barral. He is known as the founder of visceral osteopathy, and he has done a lot of research on this. And he has also written some interesting books about how the viscera are related, how viscera and emotions are related. So this is a very interesting fact which also Ayurveda mentions. So first I will elaborate about how osteopathy is related, how the viscera has been related with different organs. So I have personally seen that, it has mentioned that there are liver is associated with anger, then kidneys are associated with fear, the emotion of fear, then lungs are associated with the feeling of grief, or this depression. Usually that affects the lungs. So as a osteopath, when I have seen cases, I have treated with people, I have worked on the liver. It has been, the patients themselves shared the experience that before the treatment, they had this tendency to get very angry or aggressive, and there was no particular reason why that was happening. But after I worked with their liver, they started that. Just a minute. Yeah, so that feeling of anger automatically started subsiding. So, when you look for more explanation, and when I look in Ayurveda, I get a very clear explanation about how this actually works. So in Ayurveda also, we have usually, aapne bhi suna hoga that, a person who is a Pitta Prakriti, they usually have this tendency of getting very angry, or, they have a tendency to get more angry. Or if a person gets really angry, that increases the Pitta in the body. And that also causes a lot of ailments, like how Dr. Rashmi meant that Ayurveda is not only dealing with the body, but it deals with the Sharir, Indriya, Sattva, Atma. And Sattva is the mind, and all these emotions, we feel from the level of the mind. So when when a person experiences anger, that reflects on the liver, because liver is also a predominant organ of Pitta. So, that connection I was able to establish after, knowing both Ayurveda and osteopathy. So I feel that, these two medicines really complement each other, because understanding, there are some parts which I have experienced in Ayurveda, which I have learned in Ayurveda, but somewhere that experience was lacking, which I was able to understand and more experience that through osteopathy. So this is a very important relation, which I really find interesting in this, between these two fields.
Wow, this is amazing. Really amazing to know about it. So Dr. Tanu, you also have been treating some patients, though you are in your final year of MSc. And as I know, you have treated at least around 350 plus patients. So can you share one or two of your strong cases?
Yes. So, I have come across a lot of patients who are suffering from allergies, and, who have this tendency that they get very frequently, they develop sneezing and sinusitis. So there is this particular case which I will really not forget. It was a very interesting case. So he came with a complaint that, since the past 2 to 3 years, he has been experiencing a lot of sneezing, and that sneezing, like every week, 2 or 3 days, he has this episode of sneezing, and it just abruptly starts. There is no particular, reason which aggravates it. One of the reasons he mentioned was that, sometimes when he takes a cold water bath, or, he eats something, then that suddenly aggravates his sneeze. So, but there was no particular other reason which, he was feeling like why the sneezing was happening. So, as you know, in osteopathy, we do not only work with the symptoms, we actually find what is cause, and how that why the symptom is appearing. So I did his body, and a lot of restrictions in different levels. Restrictions in his the sacrum bone, the important bone according to Pathy. There's a lot of connections which our the entire vertebral column from the sacrum to the occiput, it is connected, and that connection is it is connected with our meninges and our cranial system, and that is a very important connection. So I found that there were some restrictions which were there present in his sacrum bone. Then the other part which I found was his diaphragm. So diaphragm is our muscle which is very important for breathing. So when that muscle is not functioning properly, or if the movements of the diaphragm am I audible? I think I got disconnected.
Yeah, you had just freezed for like 3-4 seconds. So you can.
Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about the diaphragm. So, there is a very important muscle known as the diaphragm, which, if it does not function properly, if the movements of the diaphragm are not happening properly, they tend to affect our lymphatic system. It tends to, create more of allergies and immunity related issues. So for this patient particularly, I worked on his sacrum. I first released his sacrum. The second thing, I worked with his diaphragm. I released the muscle, the diaphragm muscle, and the connections of the diaphragm. And then I also worked with his occiput bone. And after 15 days or so, I received a message from that patient, and he just I never expected that that one session could be so much. It could have so much of impact on that person, but he messaged me saying that after the treatment which you gave me, it has been more than 20 days that I have not had even one single episode of sneezing. And that was something which was, I was also a bit surprised by it. I did not expect that, the treatment it was a very basic treatment if you see from the osteopathy point of view. I worked with a few of the basic structures, the sacrum, the diaphragm, the occiput. And after, he shared his experience that he has not had even one single episode of that sneezing which he was having for the past 2 to 3 years. Every week he was having 2 to 3 episodes, and it used to carry on for a lot of hours, like continuously for hours he used to be sneezing. And the second thing he said that, now even after taking cold water, so this was one very interesting case which it showed how the connections of our body are, and how by just freeing up some of the organs and opening up the system, when the lymphatic system starts working properly, when the blood starts flowing in a proper manner, how all these allergies and all can be automatically taken care of without prescribing any kind of medicine, or without taking any other like steam or anything like that. Just by opening up the system, how your health can take care of itself. So this is one very interesting case which I found.
Amazing, Dr. Tanu. So we'll come back to you again. Coming to Dr. Rashmi. Dr. Rashmi, you also have been treating a lot of patients. Currently, you're also working with our Ayurveda hospital in the university, and you must be coming across so many diverse patients where you have to integrate your Ayurvedic knowledge along with osteopathy. So can you share some of your cases?
So it has been very, actually, sometimes funny situation for me when I integrate both, because patient, they don't realize what actually worked. Even I don't realize what worked for them. They are fine, they improve sometimes within a week or something, and we both wonder that what actually worked. Sometimes they don't even realize the importance of a touch. They just believe in the medicine. I remember many cases like that. So I had a patient, she was a lady who had a swelling in both the legs. So I gave her one session, maybe I worked on some facial work, and then I gave her some medicine, as I do, because I always integrate Ayurveda with osteopathy. And she improved it within a week, and she never asked for osteopathy. She thought it worked only with medicine. So it becomes really funny situation for me where I have to explain them how both integrated treatment actually works. And for me, it helps a lot, because in osteopathy, we believe, as Dr. Tanushree said, that we divide osteopathy in 3 aspects: musculoskeletal, visceral, and cranial. So mainly, most of the time, musculoskeletal problems, they have their root in visceral or cranial. So for treating, even if a patient is coming for knee pain or neck pain or any kind of joint stiffness, we must check their gut and treat their gut. So whenever a patient is coming to me for a simple musculoskeletal problem, it can be arthritis or anything, I always check his or her gut, and I always give them medicines along with that, like for liver or for colon, and they improve very fast. Their quality of life, not just the pain, like they come for the pain. No, most of the patient they come, I have this pain, I have that pain. But as an osteopath and Ayurveda doctor, I realize that problem is somewhere else. And with both the treatment, when I work together on the patient, same problem, then they don't only improve in the pain, they improve in complete life. Their digestion improves, their quality of life, their enthusiasm. Because when you are working on the root cause, on liver and colon, when you are integrating the treatment, then treatment goes at a different level. Result is very fast and it gives multiple benefits to a person. So I think it's the best complement. It's the best this combination to treat along with further treatment. So it gives me feeling of a complete, I feel ki I have many tools now. Sometimes if I don't have sufficient medicine, I can just work with osteopathy. And if I need, no, this patient needs something extra, then I have medicines also. So it gives a lot of confidence as a doctor to me.
Wow, this is amazing. So before we move on to the next question to Dr. Rashmi, I would like to tell all our viewers that if you have any questions that you would like to ask our Ayurveda doctors turned osteopaths, please write your questions in the comments and we would love to take it up. So Dr. Rashmi, one question that has come from one of the viewer is, what is the difference between Marma and osteopathy?
Okay, so what is Marma basically? Marma are some energy points. In Ayurveda, Marma is a point where is a junction. It's a junction where, what is a junction where two or more things meet? So it's a junction where nerves, veins, arteries, they all cross their each path. That is Marma. So when we are working on junction, we are just releasing some tension there and it frees the body. So in osteopathy, it's completely different. In osteopathy, we first diagnose a patient. What is the problem? Our job is not to just free the energy, First, we have to diagnose the patient and treat the root cause. And it looks, it's just a touch, but it's not. It's way different. Osteopathy is working with a rhythm. Osteopathy is working with your inherited motion, working with body intelligence. So it's much vast and much deeper than Marma.
Yeah, that's very true. So, Dr. Rashmi, typically, how much time or what is the duration of an osteopathic treatment? Is it any defined treatment or, is it any defined duration of any treatment or is it optional?
Basically, it is optional. It's a very individual decision for an osteopath. But generally, we restrict our treatment to 45 minutes to 1 hour because body cannot handle beyond that. So we have to decide according to patient's condition, his ability to take up the treatment. According to that, we have to give the treatment. But generally, we restrict it to 45 minutes to 1 hour. That's good enough for one session. Because body needs time, we are just providing a fulcrum. Then body needs time to heal itself, to process itself. That patient has to take. So before we call a patient again for follow-up, his body has to go through some processing. So that much treatment is good enough in one session.
Okay, that answers again a few questions which had come to us. Okay, coming back to Dr. Tanu. So Dr. Tanu, there is a patient who has written to us that, and it is specially related to eyes. So he has written that we know the benefits of the Panchkarma treatments for the eyes. Can osteopathy also help in eye-related problems like reducing the power of the eyes?
Yeah, so, this is a very actually interesting question. Osteopathy does help in reducing a lot of, working with the eyes, and not only reducing the power, but a lot of different conditions of the eyes, like, strabismus or glaucoma or diplopia or different disorders of the vision. They all can be corrected with osteopathy. So in osteopathy, for eye disorders, usually we work with a lot of structures which surround the eyes. For example, we work with the muscles of the eye, the different muscles, the superior rectus, inferior rectus, all these different muscles. We work with the nerves of the eyes, the optic nerve, the trochlear nerve, the apucin nerve. And the treatment is not only limited to the eyes. It is also in osteopathy, as it has already been mentioned, that it is a holistic approach. For even in the disorders of the eye, we work with the cranium. We work with the cranial osteopathy. So we check the sphenobasillar junction. We work with the different cranial bones, and after that we also work with the different organs. So coming back to the visceral osteopathy, so different organs. According to Ayurveda also, eyes is a pitta predominant organ, right? So there are different organs like liver, the stomach, in which Agni is, when the Agni is not working properly, then also the patient tends to have problems with the eyes. So, when we work with the digestive system of a person, it has shown to have a really lot of impact on the person's eyesight, the vision, and a lot of problems related to eyes have been, gotten better. And also, if you want to complement it with Ayurveda, after we work with the eyes, after we release the muscles of the eye, after we have worked with the nerves, improve the circulation of the eye, worked with the cranium, and after that, when the treatments like Tarpan are done on the eyes, that gives the even more absorbing power to the eye, and the medicinal properties are absorbed much more effectively after these treatments. So it again complements Ayurveda and osteopathy. So
Wow. So, Dr. Tanu, some time back, you were mentioning about this vagus nerve. And vagus nerve is currently, I can sense, a hot topic. A lot of people talk about it. And we also had a national workshop on vagus nerve in Sri University. So, can you explain what exactly this vagus nerve is, and how is osteopathy related to it? And if you can show some technique which layman like us can understand.
Yes. So, this vagus nerve is personally my favorite because, as I already shared my experience, that I was going through something, and this was the nerve which was affected, and after treating that, so after that I particularly developed a lot of interest in this topic, that what exactly this is. So, there are a lot of new theories about the vagus nerve. It is known as the polyvagal theory, which was given by, there are many books available now about the polyvagal theory. One has been given by Stephen Porges. He is the one who gave the polyvagal theory. And then there are few teachers who came to, like you mentioned about the seminar which we had. In that, Stanley Rosenberg, he's a very amazing, craniosacral therapist who came, and we learned a lot of new things from him. So he explained how this vagus nerve is such an important nerve of our body. So according to this polyvagal theory which we have, the vagus nerve actually has two parts. It has a dorsal root and a ventral. So there are two parts of this vagus nerve. So, and both the parts have different functions. So, the normal functioning of the vagus nerve, that the feeling of happiness, the, social engagement, all these aspects of the of our life are taken care by the ventral vagus. And then there is another aspect known as the dorsal vagus nerve, which, when a person is feeling depressed, or a person is not feeling very good about himself, they have this feeling of lack, self-worth, not a very strong, good feeling. Those are the aspects which come up when the ventral vagus is not working properly and the body is in the dorsal vagus state. So, with osteopathy, when we work with this vagus nerve, and this vagus nerve is a very important cranial nerve of our body. It is the 10th nerve, and it is the longest nerve. It is also known as the Madhya Nadi. In Ayurveda, if we see the Madhya Nadi, which has been described so much, it is actually this vagus nerve. And there are so many techniques mentioned. There are so many techniques which have been mentioned even in Ayurveda, in yoga, when we work, so many things have been explained on how we can work on this Madhya Nadi. So many breathing techniques and so many different techniques in Ayurveda. And also in osteopathy, we have been taught few techniques, because when this nerve, since it is the longest nerve, it supplies the lungs, it supplies the heart, it supplies the diaphragm, it supplies the stomach, the liver, the digestive organs, the intestines. So, when this nerve is not functioning properly, the rest and digest part of our, nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, it does not function properly. So usually people tend to have acidity issues, digestive issues, constipation. The person has breathing issues, and they're not able to. So these are the different things which get affected when the vagus nerve is not functioning properly. So there is a very simple exercise which Stanley sir has taught us. So I will teach you that. So before that, we'll examine first, how we are breathing, how our body is. So you keep your hands on your abdomen, okay? So both the sides of the navel, you keep your hands like this on both the sides of your navel, and you take a deep breath in and breathe out. And you have to observe which of the side is more, getting, when you breathe in, is there any particular side, the right side or the left side, which is expressing more? The breathing is happening more on that side. So, so for me, my right side is more, expressing more. So then again, now you put your hands like this on your diaphragm, the lower part of your rib cage. Okay, the lower part of your rib cage, you put your hand, and again you take a deep breath in. Yeah. And breathe out. And now again, you have to see which of the side you're breathing more, the right side or the left side. And the third, you keep it on your chest like this. And again, you take a deep breath in. And breathe out. Okay, so now you might have understood that there is one side of your body in which the breath is expressive more, and on one side it is a little less expressive, right? So now we will do the technique. So you cross your hands like this, and you keep it on the back of your head, the junction between your neck and your head, and you can place your thumbs on, this bone behind your ear. So that's how you place your hands. Okay. Now, now without moving your neck, only with your eyes, you have to look to the right and to the left, and you check which side is, which side your eyes is facing a little bit difficulty, or you feel a little stress on looking at one of the sides. So just see, right or left. So for me, I'm having a little difficulty in looking towards the right. So I'll keep looking towards the right until I get a deep breath, or I feel like I'm gulping something down my throat. So until then, I will keep looking to my right, because that was difficult for me. So then after you get a deep breath, or you feel a gulp down your throat, you again look to the other side. Now you look to the left side. And you again wait for that gulp to come, or the feeling of deep breath to come. Sometimes it can take even a minute, so don't worry. Yeah. So then you can relax. After that deep breath, you can just take your hands down. And now again you check. So you check all the 3 levels which you did before. So you take a deep breath, keep your hands near to your umbilicus, and take a deep breath. And now at your rib cage, the diaphragm, lower part of your rib cage. And now chest. So do you feel any difference from before and after? Like now the both sides are equally breathing. You're able to breathe equally from both the sides.
Yes, yes. I could feel. My left was not according to that, but now I could feel the balance.
Yeah, and if you observe, that side would have been the one which you was not able to see very easily. So like if you had a restriction on the left side, your movement to the left side with your eye would have been difficult. Yeah, so this is a very easy exercise which activates your vagus nerve very quickly. So this is something which you can do even when you are working. Suppose if you are in your office and you have a lot of work pressure and you're feeling a lot of stress. So this is an instant technique which you can just do it sitting on your office chair, and after doing this you will feel that deep sensation of that relaxation, the deep breath. Automatically you will be able to be more relaxed and focus more on your work. So
Wow, this is amazing. This is really amazing. Like just a few seconds of doing this, and you're able to sort out so many things inside. So, Dr. Tanu, if you can just share a few of your moments while studying in Shisha University, how was it to learn from faculty members who are coming from almost 3 different continents?
Yeah. So, we have in osteopathy in SSU, we have faculties from USA. Kevin Weiss, sir, he came from USA to teach us osteopathy. Then we had Stanley Rosenberg, sir. We had Thor, sir. These people were from, from Europe. Then we had a very amazing faculty, Helen Gaines, sir. He is one of the most experienced osteopaths. He is 86-year-old and he is from Spain, and he is one of the most experienced osteopath in this field. And he has more than 45 years of experience. And learning from such, and we have Ugo sir from Spain, we have these are all different amazing osteopaths which have had opportunity to learn. And every teacher different dimension of osteopathy. So if I would have studied this thing, the same science from another country, or if I would have gone abroad to learn it, because it is so well developed in US, in Europe, there are so many schools outside which have been internationally recognized. And so I don't think I would have gotten that kind of knowledge. We have Francis sir, Maria ma'am, who came to teach us. So every different osteopath that came to teach us in SSU had a different flavor. They opened up a different dimension of osteopathy for us. And learning from so many different people from across the globe, we have actually got a knowledge of osteopathy. We have got a knowledge of classical osteopathy. Then we have the most the most recent advances which have happened in osteopathy. We have got the knowledge of everything under one roof. So it has been a very amazing experience to learn from all of these people, and I would really, come back to learn more from these people. Whenever these people visit the campus, I would come back to just learn more from them, and just to spend time with them, because there is another thing about them that they never made us feel that we are, they are our teachers and we are their students. They always, I always felt like they were a new family, and they made us feel so comfortable. They taught us with so much of love that we developed a special kind of bond with them, and it became like a family. So this osteopathy for me has actually been a new family for me, and the moments which I spend in my SSU, I'm going to cherish it throughout my life, because I've learned so much in a span of just 2 years, which I would have never expected or ever thought few years ago that I will do something so amazing in my life. So yeah.
Wow. Now coming to Dr. Rashmi. Dr. Rashmi, can you share your moments in Shisha University, especially how it has been handling your 4-year-old kid and your family and settling in a completely new state, and at the same time learning this new science with some of your juniors, some of your seniors, and faculties from different continents?
So Gayatri, I will say it was a beautiful accident of my life. We were expecting our transfer to Ranchi actually. So my husband, he just came. We were in Calcutta. No, we are getting transferred to Bhubaneswar. And that time I was traveling actually. I was traveling as an RD consultant. So he told me, you will stay here only. You are well settled now. I will alone go and I will continue my job. So I said, okay, first let me visit the place. So I just came to Bhubaneswar and I just fell in love with this city. I said, no, I will come along with you. So this was the first step to this thing. And second step, you know how it happened. I just came to see university and I was caught in osteopathy. So it was like a very different experience. Initially it was tough for me, but I will say it was osteopathy only which gave me strength to deal with it. You know, because in osteopathy as a student you receive so much treatment that you are very well able to handle multiple situations. And secondly, the kind of environment I was given, kind of support from my faculties, from Juan sir, from all the faculties, and from my batchmates, they all supported me so much. They all understood my limitations as a mother. Their support was a very big strength for me. my son, whenever he used to have holiday in school and crèche, or whenever he used to fall sick, he used to travel with me to class. And he was told 12th student of osteopathy. So, like, they all cooperated so much. He used to sometimes really disturb the class, but they cooperated everyone, all the teachers and batchmates, like they were really my very good strength. So along with all their support, it was a wonderful journey, you know, being a student after so many years and learning such a beautiful science. I will say it was most beautiful accident of my life. So it's that
I
way.
love this statement. So, Dr. Rashmi, what is your one advice to the aspirants, either who already have their own clinics, well-established clinics, and who are having these second thoughts, whether should we leave our clinics and come to study for 2 years in Shisha University, and also those aspirants who are just graduated, just done their internships and are ready to venture into a new field for their masters. What is your one advice for them?
Yes, I agree to that. That this new generation which is coming up, they really want to explore, you know, they really want to go deep in the science of Ayurveda and they want to explore much more. And this is for those people who are adventurous, who are ready to explore something bigger than what we generally think about the Ayurveda science, you know. As I said, osteopathy is not separate from Ayurveda. That way of treatment is very different, very beautiful, but for me, it is just extended Ayurveda. Osteopathy is where you really understand what Ayurveda is. You know, you feel in your hands what Ayurveda is. For me, like after so much, after I completed my BMS, now I understand Ayurveda better. Now I can treat my patients better. So for those who have just graduated or those who are already practicing, if they really want to make their clinic more this thing for patient, they want to be more beneficial for society, they really want to serve better, osteopathy is for them. And when you learn, no, first you are the first patient, you know, as a student you receive so much treatment that your life completely changes. So I think there can be nothing better, you being already an Ayurveda doctor come to learn to osteopathy, like it's like a boon, it's like a blessing for you. Don't miss this chance.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Rashmi. Really, I feel at this moment, after listening to both of your conversations, I really felt I should have taken some medical degree to be able to study this. So, coming to one final question to Dr. Tanushree. So, Dr. Tanushree, what is your one advice to these aspirants who wish to study masters in osteopathy? Also, what according to you are the different career opportunities for them? Uh, doc-
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I would just say go for it. Osteopathy is something which, unless and until you experience it yourself, unless and until you know, experience it, you will never know what it is. So, I would actually tell them that you go and get a osteopathy treatment from the nearest osteopath and, experience what it is, and then you decide if you want to do it or not. We are all available on, you will get all our contact numbers, you can talk to us, and you should just do it, because it is something, it is an evolving field, it is something so new in India, and it has a great, a promising future. There are so many career aspects. So for example, there is one of our senior who is currently practicing in CK Birla Hospital in Jaipur. So you have opportunities to join as an osteopath in the different hospitals. You also have you can set up your own clinics. You can join, like in a Sri Sri University, we have our Ayurveda hospital, in which also there is a department of osteopathy. So you can join in there as a consulting osteopath. And also, there are so many teaching opportunities. So because it is a very new field in India, we are also having a lot of teaching opportunities. So once you become a graduate, because even in my, when I was undergoing this osteopathy, and still I had a lot of seniors who came as visiting faculty and also full-time faculty who taught us. So there is another career opportunity where you can teach osteopathy, you can spread it. So there are a lot of scopes. So you can also connect with any of us. You can, whatever doubts you have, you can post it in the questions, or you can message us personally as well. We would be glad to answer them all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tanushree. It was amazing to listen to you. So to all our viewers, please connect with us if you have any question that you want to ask any osteopath specifically. If you're a doctor yourself and you really want to learn the science of osteopathy, our admissions are going on. All the MBBS, the physiotherapists, the dentists, the Ayurveda doctors are all welcome to join our master's program in osteopathy. Also, for those NEET aspirants, the 12th kids who are currently preparing for their exams and waiting for results, if you really want to explore, the options have been opened in Sri Sri University from 2018 with our bachelor's in osteopathy, which is a 4-year degree program. So for all of you, if you want to know more about the osteopathic program, please visit our website. All the information is there. Write to us. We'll be very, very happy to connect with you. And Sri Sri University is like an educational paradise, a beautiful land of 188 acres. And for those who are, thinking about what both of them are speaking about the university, our alumni and our current students call it a home away from home, or the happiest campus. So let's watch a very short video to know the glimpse about the university.
We live in a world that is constantly changing and evolving. And to face global challenges, we need people with dynamic personalities. At Sri Sri University, and leaders are groomed with a purpose to learn, lead, and serve. It is emerging as a center of premium education in India, blending the best of East and West. This university has a unique approach to education that combines Western innovation with the ancient values and wisdom from the East. It is one of India's first alcohol, drug, and smoke-free campus. Spread across 187 acres of land and located on a hilltop on the banks of the Mahanadi River, thousands of students from across the 28 states of India and several countries of the world call Sri Sri University their home.
If I had to point out that one thing that really makes me feel special about studying at
University offers courses from an undergrad to a master's level and also PhDs. Sri Sri therapy that aims to bring a revolution in the path of medical science. Yoga, meditation, and spiritual values are the foundations on which the university stands tall, and it is these that are shaping the personalities of our students inside out.
there is no ragging happening, there is no one picking on each other, and that is really important. I think the environment of the university is such that the emotional quotient automatically develops in a person.
This is my 4th year in SSU, and I have seen a transformation on a very large scale in my life.
It gives you more than it promises, so that's all a person can ask for.
Sports is a way of life at Sri Sri University and is clearly exhibited in this vibrant campus and its students. The annual Fest Orion is a pursuit for brilliance. It is envisioned to be the biggest social celebration in Odisha and eastern India, with the ambition of becoming the best annual fest in the world. Our alumni have been placed in some of the top multinationals, while some have set forth to create successful startups of their own.
Srisha University was one place I looked at where I feel I could learn more than just what's in the books, because at the end of the day, I realized it's a lot about handling people more than systems. It's about actually coming together and making a difference. And you don't find that so easily.
In 2018, Sri Sri University was awarded the Best Bootcamp Startup Award by the Government of Odisha. Right from its year of inception, Sri Sri University has been recognized with several other such awards. Our vision is to impart holistic and value-integrated education in order to develop visionary thinkers and leaders. The revolution in education has begun.
So I once again extend my warm greetings and thanks to both our panel members for today, Dr. Rashmi Gupta and Dr. Tanushree, for joining us. For those of you who have missed watching our previous sessions of a conversation with the dentist, conversation with physiotherapists and the MBBS doctors, all are recorded on our Facebook page. It will also be on our website very soon. So you're open to watch them. Invite more of your friends to also explore and know about this science. And for those who are waiting to be a part of this university, we are there to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us today.